Alright, so we come to the second part of the project management. In this, we talk about project manager, planning projects, Gantt chart, and network diagrams. So I would like to thank Mr. Mr. R.K. Chatwal for writing this book, Facility Planning, which has been used as the base for all the material that is there in all of these videos. First, we talked about project manager. Who is a project manager? The project manager is the person who oversees the different initiatives of the project, right? And he is responsible for mainly deadlines, right? Schedules. Of course, he requires to understand what the definition of the project is, in the sense what all the requirements are there about it. Whom will he be working with, which is his teammates, right? So that person is the project manager. I mean, the person who is at the end of it, the main person responsible for a project is the project manager. What are his duties? What are the duties and responsibilities of a so essentially there is a lot that is there. So because the person who has been allocated the role has to be skilled both in technical skill as far as the job is concerned. Let's say if it is an engineering job, so he requires to be an engineer, right? As well as in terms of management skill, in terms of leading and directing the team, right? So that is how the person is supposed to be. So the the project manager is responsible in terms of planning the project, in terms of distributing resources. So planning the resources is also his thing, and distributing is also his. Obviously, the time management, the risk management, creating benchmarks in terms of project has got certain stage one, stage two, stage three, stage four, and so on. So looking at all of that, building benchmarks is what the one of the different roles of a project manager is. So he requires to maintain a budget because expenditure is critical. He requires to manage staff. He requires to have key, relation with the key stakeholders. They also requires to be managed. So there is a lot of soft skill that's required over there. Duties and responsibilities continued. Okay. So, okay, some of the other things, some of the key things which are part of the duties and responsibilities, identifying the risks in the project, prepare the progress report periodically, coordinate with various departments, planning the manpower, planning the purchase, planning the job, creating benchmarks, time management, risk management, and budget management. I would request you, if you are interested to know more of details, please pause the video and read through the material. So, we talk about elements of a project. Elements of a project, there are about 12 main core components. So first of all, you have something called the scope statement, which defines exactly what is going to be done, what is the outcome of it, by when will it happen, what are the cost factors related to it, what is the time requirement for it, so what is going to happen at the end of it. So that is the scope statement, right? Then comes the critical success factors. So the the so-called performance indicators are also termed as success factors, and the outcome of it may be measurables in terms of KPIs also, or there could be separate. Success factors could be in terms of quality factors also. So of these quality factors, which of them, some of them are maybe possibly good to have, the others are critical and are, without which the project will be taken as a failure. So you have critical success factors. And you have the deliverables, which obviously are part of your scope. Work breakdown structure. That means are you breaking it down to different phases or not? Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. How is it that you are planning on the work? at every stage, but when is it going to finish? What happens, at the end of each stage? That is what the work breakdown structure. Obviously, what is the component of cost which is involved with it? What is the manpower requirement? All of that is part of the work breakdown structure. Schedule is more to do with time. The work breakdown in terms of time is called schedule. Budget is in terms of money. What's the money requirement? When do you require it? At each stage, how much of money do you require? And then you have the quality measures, right? I mean, how do you measure the quality of the outcome? The human resource plan. At which stage, how many people of what caliber for how many hours per day for how many days, and so on. That is the part of the human resource plan. Stakeholder list. Stakeholder, you have different people who are stakeholders. The top management is a stakeholder, the immediate boss is a stakeholder. At the end of it, if you're doing it for a third party, the third party is a stakeholder. If it's outsourced, the outsourced party is the stakeholder. So, all those who are affected by the project are stakeholders to it. Communication is a critical part of the project management plan, and which is why there are some statements, some of the communication is in terms of written formats. There are pre-existing formats for communication, and some of them may be in terms of meetings that you require to have mandatorily on a periodic basis. Risk register. So risk register is something, it's a document to manage risk, right? And to fulfill regulatory compliance, right? So all your risks, how is it, has it been identified, and what is the nature of the risk, and if something happens, like who is the person responsible for taking care of the risk, which is the owner, and in case something goes wrong, what are the mitigation measures, as in how will it get solved? That is a part of the risk register. Procurement plan, similarly in terms of resources, so you have the 5 M's. So how do you plan to get your 5 M's is the procurement plans. Parts of a project. So a project is made of, if I were to look at it in terms of the reverse, for a project to have happened, for a project to have completed, it is subsequent to certain events which have to happen. You could have a set of 3 events which required to happen for you to say that the project is completed. And then these events, each event is made up of several activities. You see, activities are what are sub parts of an event. You have activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, and so on. Right? Similarly, E2 is also made of such things. And each activity is made of different tasks. So maybe you have T1 and T2 and T3 and so on, right? So the smallest component of a project is the task. In the next level you have the activity. In the third level you have the event. All of this together leads to the project. Yeah. So task is the smallest part of the project. Every task consumes the material. Your five M's are maybe some of them or all of them are part of your tasks over here, right? So it gives a task in a significant format is one which gives direction or add its characteristic in the process of successful performance or achieve long-term short. Basically, it is the smallest subunit of a project. A task, every task requires to be done right. Now, for example, if the project, let's say hypothetically, if the project is fighting a war against a certain country, so that is dependent upon 2 events, which is attacking it at point 1 and attacking it at point 2, both of it happening simultaneously. And then for these to happen, if you want the attack to happen, then you have formation of the armies, you have getting together of your equipment, getting your tanks in place, getting your maybe your aeroplanes in space, all of these are the part of the activities to have this event work completed. Out of getting these in place, now if you're talking about getting the tanks in place, so getting ammunition ready, that would be maybe a task, right? Seeing to it that there is sufficient fuel, that might be another task, and so on. The smallest, as you can make out, the tasks are critical to completion of a project, but these are subparts of activities which are subparts of events, which is a small part of a project. Yeah, so I think we have talked about activity. So activity over here, we record to keep in mind, it is represented by a arrow over here, right? It is a line and an arrow, right? So it's called a line arrow is what it is called. So we require this for network diagrams, which we shall study very soon. We require to understand. So activity is, this line arrow is symbol of any activity. And the event, it is like we said, sum of all tasks and activities is basically what the event is. So stages of project management. Now, for a project to happen, it requires to be initiated. Someone requires to decide that the project is required, and then to get it going, obviously there is a lot of planning which has to be done, proper planning. After the planning is done, it has to be executed and monitored, and it has to be closed. So these are the different stages of project management. Planning a project. So Gantt chart is, in project management, we saw that planning is a key part to it. So Gantt chart is a critical part of project management. I mean, it's a very widely used tool, and it was first used during World War II to achieve the goals that were required at that point. So basically, work breakdown structure is what helps us to understand uh, how to go about achieving a project. So you break down as decided. You have different kind of your events, and you have activities and tasks, right? And so all of these can be represented on a Gantt chart in terms of sequence in how it would be done, right? Now this is more easier said verbally, but once I show you a table, it will be very clear what a Gantt chart is. A Gantt chart looks like this. Now if you think of an Excel table, then this is what it is. So you have, let us say, all of these are part of one activity, right? So you have one activity which is happening over here. It's made of task 1 and task 2 and task 3, yeah, sorry, and task 3, and that's about it. These tasks are also broken down into task 1.1, 1.2, 2.1, 2.2, 2.3 is again sub broken down into 2.3.1 and 2.3.2. So you see, you break it down into the smallest possible units, and then you chart, so these are all in sequence to each other. Over here, all these tasks, one can happen only after the first one happens, the second one starts, and then now the beauty over here is the second one, the third, the second task is made up of two parts, wherein you have the ones which are 2.1 and 2.2, which are individual tasks by themselves, but 2.3 is made of two subtasks over here, right? So in any case, the task 2 happens after the task 1 has happened over here, and then after task 2 happens, you take to task 3. But what is important is, while this is activity going on, maybe this is activity 1 hypothetically, it is possible that while activity 1 is on, at this point, or this point in terms of the timeline, you might have, as you can see, this is the timeline over here. See, this is the timeline over here. So while the activity 1 is on, you might have tasks of activity 2 also which will happen simultaneously. It might happen so, right? So a Gantt chart is a clear-cut breakup of the sequence of activities that are to happen in terms of whether there is overlap of time, or in terms of, if one can happen only after the other is concerned. Now, for example, if activity 2 which we talked about can happen only after activity 1, simple thing, you can put on false ceiling only after the roof is complete. You cannot have it, if the ceiling is not complete, you cannot start with the false ceiling. Obviously it cannot be a parallel task. So your first task or the first activity is finishing of the ceiling, and then you start with the false ceiling part of it, right? It is impossible to have it parallel. So in such a fashion, all the activities of a project are listed down, and which can be overlapped, which can be simultaneous, which can happen only after the other one happens, can be plotted in a Gantt chart in this kind of a format. Executing a Gantt chart. So very typical about all these activities is, or all the tasks is, you record the start date and you record an end date, right? And you require to have a schedule of finishing all of these, right? So all of this would actually define what is called the project calendar, right? And it says very clearly, so once you have all the activities in place, this activity will take so much time, this will take so much time, this one can happen only after this finishes, and then the fourth activity, it can happen right in the middle of the second activity, it will take a longer time than the third activity also, and so on. So at the total end of it, that the time required is from this point in time when you have started the work till this point of time when you have finished the work. So this is the time requirement of the project. That kind of a thing is what you get in a Gantt chart. So all of this requires to be labeled. So you have the task names and the duration have to be given, and the dependencies, like I said, if one task is dependent on the other, that has to be pretty clear. And once you start on with the project, you require to actually inspect it at regular intervals, right? To check whether things are, first of all, going as planned or not, and very importantly, to detect potential problems. You might have thought of a task in a certain fashion, but once you have started, you might check that it's not really going according to how you have planned. It might be a little different. So potential problems, to shoot them down, it is important, and you require to keep checking it at regular intervals and take corrective, the corrective steps required to be taken. Networks and diagrams. Networks and diagrams. So what is a network? Now, we all know what networking is. Yeah, it is about managing the relations in short, right? We are basically talking about in the society or on social platforms kind of a thing. That's what we know about the network says. But in terms of project management also, we have got something called network diagrams, right? What are network diagrams? So it is a graphical representation of all tasks, right? A graphical, this is the key point, graphical representation of all tasks, responsibilities and workflow for a project. So if you are able to put it in a certain graphical format, then that is called the network diagram, right? You can call it as a sort of a map. Yeah, it's a kind of a map of the schedule, right? Or you can say a map of the work sequence of the project, so that the progress can be tracked. You see, unless you have it in map, I'm first going to do this task. After this task is over, I'm going to do this task. After this task is over, I will do two more tasks simultaneously, this task and this task, right? And then and so on. Maybe there are more tasks after that, whatever it is. All of these, this is going to take me 4 days, this is going to take me 5 days, whatever it is. That kind of a clarity is the kind of a mapping is what we're talking about. The time duration and the sequence of it together is what we're talking about. When you're putting it in a graphical format, then it is called a network diagram. right? So a network diagram, what does it do? It allows the project manager to track each element of the project, right? Um, and two of the very critical techniques used in network diagram as a part of network diagrams are what is called CPM, which is the critical path method, and PERT. So we shall be talking about this in detail. They are a bulk of this particular topic, which is project management, and one requires to understand them properly. We'll take it up shortly. Nodes and activity. All right, we talk about nodes and activity. Now, um, whatever we are planning in terms of the project, right? In terms of time, labor, physical resources, all of it is a part of the network diagram, right? Applications of network analysis in projects can be, in terms of assembly line scheduling, in terms of installation of a complex and new equipment. You see, you could have equipment which requires so many parts and so many days to assemble. So that also could be used by network analysis. And then you have research and development. You have maintenance, overhauling, inventory planning, budget and audit procedures, shifting of plant and machinery. All of these, as you can see, whatever is something which is determined by a process and has got a schedule to it. Most of such things can be represented by a network analysis or a networking diagram. So we are talking about nodes and activities, which is the networks are graphical or mathematical structure made up of two entities. One is nodes and two are called activities. So we will shortly understand that nodes are, they are in terms of circles or squares, activities are arrow lines, right? So we shall be studying them shortly. Now, activity is represented by this kind of a arrow line, right? So the name of the activity, whatever it is, let's say it is P, Q or R, is written on the top normally, and the duration is written below, whatever 1, 2 or 3 days, whatever it takes, or hours or weeks or whatever it is written below the line. So if you have an activity, now if I have an activity A, which is going to take me 5 days, I write over here A, right? Yeah, that's A, and I write over here 5. Yeah, that is the representation of an activity that's happening. The duration of activity is the difference of the ending time and the starting time of the activity, obviously. So maybe activity A is not the beginning. Let us say, for example, there was another activity called, let's say, P. So there was another activity called P which had happened, and after P happened, activity P happened. The activity P took 3 days, after which activity A started. So activity A starts after the 3rd day and ends at the 8th day. So totally you have a 5 days period over here. So that's all. So every activity has a beginning and a end time, right? So the starting and the difference of the starting and the end time is called the duration. So over here difference between 8th day and 3rd day is 5 days. So that is the duration of activity A, right? Okay. Nodes and events. Nodes and events. Nodes are represented by the circle or the square, right? And these are actually milestones denoting the start or finish of a set of activities. So now, like I said, if you have activity over here A, and then there would be node over here, and from there we again move on to activity B. There might be another node over here, and so on, right? Activity C, a third node might happen over here. followed by activity D, and so on, right? This is activity D. Yeah. So nodes are events or milestones, right? So we spoke about projects. Projects are made of events, right? And then events are made up of they are composed of different activities. Activities are made up of tasks. So we have studied all of these. So nodes are events or milestones denoting the start and or finishing of a set of activities, right? Now, for example, the activities that you might have is applying for um, a license, filling in a challan. These are all activities that to go. First is you applied for license. This application form. Two is you have made of online payment. Three is you go for a test, right? A written test. And four is you go for a proper driving test. Then ultimately at the end of point four, there happens a event which is you get your license, right? So that is a node over here. So event as it is defined as it is sum of all tasks or activities working together resulting in accomplishing a successful job, right? Is event is anything that takes place or happens. Diagrammatically it is a circle or a square. Network diagram. Network diagram. So a network diagram is a graphical representation of activities and events that we already studied last slide. Um, so what is, what is the sequence which must be completed before another particular event start? So we are talking about sequence, right? What events follow this? Again, we're talking about sequence, and what activities must be accomplished simultaneously. All of this is part of the network diagram. So how do you achieve it? So first of all, you do the listing of it. So what are the activities that you need to have? You Right. So we talk about the listing all the different activities involved in the project. So you write them down in sequence. Number one, I would do this, two, three, or even if not in sequence, as they are required, we first list them down, right? After listing down, we might see that no, the number three might have to be done before number two. So that is called arranging. So first you do the listing, then you do the arranging, and then you do the estimation. So estimation is in terms of the time requirement which is required for each activity. So you talk about activity 1, it's going to take me 5 days. Activity 2, it will take me 3 days. And activity 3, it will take me 4 days. Whatever it is, in terms of time, these estimations are put in. These are all a part of getting your network diagram in place. 10 rules of network diagram. So let's go through these quickly. While we are making network diagram, there are 10 basic rules to be remembered. So activity is represented by a straight line with two nodes. So activity is between two nodes, and one indicates the start. The S over here is the start, and everything finish. Right? So the first, yeah, and the name of the activity is on top, and the time requirement is given over here below. So if two activities are performed one after the other, then they are supposed to be said to be in series. Over here you have A and B. They are in series. B and C are in series. So A, B and C are in series, which is they are all one after the other, right? A is said to be the predecessor of B, and B is the predecessor of C. So B is the successor of A, C is the successor of B. So that's how we refer to activities. The one which happens before activity is the predecessor, that happens after an activity is its successor. So A is the activity which is predecessor of B, and C is the activity which is successor of B. Rules. So activities can happen only the way forward. It cannot happen in a way backward. Activities cannot happen, it cannot move backward. If it moves backward, your project is never going to get completed. So that's a part of the rule. Activities always uh, move forward. Any activity, any project, not an activity, any project has only one starting point. A project cannot have two starting points, From one starting point, you might have three activities which are happening, but you cannot have three starting points with, three activities happening. So starting point is a single point, right? A single point in time can be the starting point, and similarly, a single ending point is the end point, right? So therefore, if you look at this, obviously this is not a feasible proposition in terms of activities. Two different activities happening together. Two different activities happening together does not happen. So here now you see there are two activities happening from the same point, same starting point. This is acceptable. This is fine. Again, parallelly, if it is to finish, now you are looking at this is finishing. You cannot have two finishing points. You require to have only one finishing point. You could have multiple activities finishing, having a single finishing point, but you cannot have multiple activities having different finishing points. That's not done. That is not acceptable. Right. Now, if two or more activities meet at a common node, it is called a junction. Now over here, this is the junction. You have P and Q activities merging over here, and A and B activities diverging from it, right? So convergence. So the point where the junction is a node where some of the activities converge and diverge from. All right. Now concurrent activities. Now over here, A and B are concurrent activities, right? So they could be also called as series parallel activities, which means they can happen in a parallel fashion, right? Or if you look at it, A and C are part of a series and B and D are part of series, but this set of A and C set of activities are parallel to the B and D series set of activities. So these two set of activities are parallel to each other. Okay, what happens if you have, let's say, the start point and the end point of an event? You have two events which are supposed to happen now. A very beautiful illustration is given over here. You have the event B, which is happening from one start point and finishing at another start point. Sorry, at an end point or a node, and C also happening the same. So this is called a loop. So a loop is something which is not acceptable. You cannot do this. So if you have a loop, then it is an incorrect network diagram, right? So how do you manage a loop? A loop has to be managed by something called a dummy activity, right? So you require to actually show that the endpoint of C is a different node. You see, it is a different node over here, and then you require to create a dummy activity connecting that node to the node in which it finishes. This is one of the conventions. So a dummy activity is represented, as you can see, by a dotted line, right? Okay. Activities should not cross over each other. Now, this kind of a thing wherein you have some kind of a traffic junction kind of a thing happening over here. That cannot happen. So that's a wrong kind of a representation over here. Activities should not cross each other. It's an important convention. What else? What else? So when you have activities which are emerging out of the starting node, right, then it is called a head event, right? And when you have multiple activities that are converging into an event and there is no further activity beyond it, right, then that's called a tail event. So this is a tail event and this is a head event. Note that after the tail event there are no activities. Note, before the head event there are no activities. So this is the important characteristic of a head event and a tail event. Numbering of events. So the nodes are numbered in sequence, as you can see, for the events that happen. So you have event A, and it is characteristic by 1, which is the starting point. 2, maybe at once the process A is completed, something happens. That node is called 2, and then in sequence you have 3 and 4 happening, and then 5 and 6 and so on. Observe, it is not that this particular node cannot be termed as 4 and this cannot be done as 5, because in sequence this 4 has to happen before 5 happens, right? So this numbering has to follow a sequence, and over here it is correctly followed.